On that particular morning, I woke feeling as if the illness from the day before had drained every ounce of strength I possessed. I could barely lift my head off the pillow, yet I knew the day demanded more of me. Tina, my son Raymond's wife, had left Ellie, their daughter, in my care as she usually did before rushing off to her job. My love for Ellie was boundless, but on that day, I was at my breaking point. I whispered to myself in frustration, I just can't do this anymore. Amidst my mounting concern and fatigue, I decided it was time to reach out to Raymond. I dialed his number, and he answered promptly. "Hello, Raymond speaking." "Mom, what's wrong?" His voice carried a mixture of concern and surprise. "Sorry to bother you when you're busy, but I'm feeling a bit unwell. Could you possibly tell Tina to come pick up Ellie as soon as she can today?" I asked, hoping for some quick relief. Raymond's response caught me off guard. "Wait, pick up Ellie? I'm actually out with Ellie right now." "What are you talking about?" Confused and unsettled, I switched my phone to video call and pointed it towards the little girl playing in the living room. "But, Raymond, she's right here," I said, showing him the child who I believed was Ellie, quietly playing house. Raymond looked utterly baffled. Who is that?" "Ellie is right here," he replied and turned his camera to show Ellie drinking juice next to him. Her familiar smile was unmistakable. It was indeed Ellie, live on his screen. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Then who is this child? The room fell silent as both Raymond and I struggled to make sense of the situation. That day marked the beginning of a bewildering ordeal that would unravel a startling truth. I'm Hannah, a 60-year-old widow. 3 years ago, my family, my son Raymond, my granddaughter Ellie, and I found ourselves embroiled in an extraordinary event. The orchestrator of this bewildering incident was none other than Tina, Ellie's own mother. When I first met Tina, she appeared as an ideal match for Raymond. He, serious and somewhat rigid, was complemented by Tina's supportive demeanor. She came across as thoughtful and kind-hearted, someone who had worked her way into our family seamlessly. Their relationship had blossomed naturally, and when Raymond introduced her as his fiancée, I was relieved he had found a good partner. However, that day brought more than just the news of their engagement. Tina was pregnant, and they planned a shotgun wedding. The joy of expecting a grandchild mingled with the rush of preparing for their unexpected wedding. My husband Watson, who was terminally ill at the time, was particularly moved. He often expressed his wish to see Raymond married. Now, he hoped to meet his grandchild, albeit under the shadow of his dwindling health. The financial strain of the impending childbirth and the wedding was apparent, but we prioritized what mattered most. "That's wonderful to hear. 2 pieces of good news today," I had said, focusing on the joy rather than the complexities. Little did I know, the true complexity of our situation was about to unfold. Life in our small rural town was slow and routine. I filled my days with gardening and occasional visits to the local market, the simplicity of which was a stark contrast to the bustling urban life that Raymond and Tina were accustomed to. It wasn't just the physical distance, our lives were diverging in ways that made spontaneous visits nearly impossible. I remember vividly the dwindling interactions. The calls became less frequent, and the visits even rarer. Each time they said they were coming, a part of me would light up, hopeful. But more often than not, plans would change at the last minute due to their busy schedules or other commitments. It was understandable, yet each cancelled visit left a small, echoing void in my heart. The times we did manage to get together were pleasant but fleeting. Tina, despite her fear of insects, would put on a brave face and join Ellie in the garden. I'd watch them, a smile fixed on my face, while internally I ached for the old days when family ties were stronger and distances shorter. Raymond seemed to manage the balance between his new family life and work with a stoic efficiency I had always admired in him. But with every visit that he managed to squeeze into his packed schedule, I could see the fatigue etched deeper into his features. It pained me to think that our meetings might be adding to his stress. During one of their rare visits, I decided to broach the topic, albeit gently. "Raymond, I know it's a long drive and you're both very busy. I really appreciate you making the effort. Maybe we could find a halfway point next time? Somewhere less rural, perhaps, so Tina and Ellie could have more to do? I suggested, hoping to ease the burden. Raymond paused, looking thoughtful. That might work, Mom. Let's try that next time. It could be a good change of pace for us too. The compromise offered a flicker of hope, a way to maintain our connection without the exhaustive demands of travel on either side. In these moments, I clung to the belief that despite the growing gaps between our visits, the bond we shared was resilient, rooted in years of love and shared experiences. But deep down, there was a lingering sadness, a fear that as Ellie grew and their lives continued to evolve, the distance might grow too great to bridge. I replied, feeling a surge of anticipation mixed with a tinge of nervousness. It had been so long since I had the chance to actually spend time with Ellie, not just glimpsing her through the pixelated images on a phone screen. Alright, I'd love to see Ellie. Let me know the details, and I'll prepare everything here. Tina's voice lightened considerably. Thank you, Hannah. I'll send you the train tickets via email, and we'll drop her off at the station. She'll be so excited to see you. As I hung up the phone, a wave of emotions washed over me. The prospect of spending a whole weekend with Ellie filled me with an ineffable joy. It had been years since our home buzzed with the energy of a young child, and I found myself eagerly planning how to make the most of our time together. I thought of the vegetable garden and how Ellie might enjoy helping me pick fresh produce, perhaps making a game of finding the ripest tomatoes or the crunchiest cucumbers. The day before Ellie was to arrive, I busied myself tidying up the house, dusting off shelves, and preparing her room. I wanted everything to be perfect for her. I dug out some old board games and puzzles from when Raymond was a boy, wondering if they might still hold a child's interest in this age of digital entertainment. The morning Ellie was due to arrive, I stood by my kitchen window, watching the driveway with bated breath. The sound of a car pulling up sent a rush of excitement through me. I hurried to the door, smoothing down my shirt, suddenly conscious of my appearance. Ellie bounded out of the car, her face breaking into a wide grin when she saw me. "Grandma," she shouted, and ran into my arms. The warmth of her hug melted away all the doubts and worries I had about the visit. She looked just like Raymond at that age, with the same bright eyes and infectious smile. As we settled in, Ellie chattered excitedly about her school, her friends, and everything she was learning. It was a joy to listen to her, and I found myself laughing more freely than I had in months. We spent the afternoon in the garden, Ellie eagerly helping to harvest vegetables, unbothered by the dirt on her hands or the occasional bug that scurried away. In the evening, we sat down to a meal of fresh produce from the garden, and Ellie seemed genuinely interested in how the vegetables she had picked turned into the dishes on the table. "Grandma, this is the best dinner ever," she declared with a satisfied sigh, and I felt a pride and happiness that was profound and simple all at once. As we cleared the dishes and prepared for a board game night, I reflected on how natural it felt to have Ellie here. The house seemed to breathe easier, filled with the echoes of laughter and the patter of small feet. For the first time in a long while, the silence that had settled over the place was swept away, replaced by the vibrant energy of life being lived fully. I found myself reluctantly adjusting to the new arrangement. Tina's assurance that Ellie can stay quiet as long as she has TV, though perhaps meant to comfort, only served to underline her dismissive attitude towards my capabilities and the effort required to look after a young child. Despite my reservations, my fondness for Ellie and the desire to spend time with her made me acquiesce more often than I would have liked. Tina's visits became a regular routine. She would drop Ellie off with little to no notice, often leaving before I could even voice any concerns or discuss plans. Her departure was always swift, as if avoiding a deeper conversation or the chance for me to say no. "You'll be fine, Hannah," she'd say with a hurried smile, and then she'd be gone, leaving a cloud of dust behind her car as it sped away. Each time Ellie arrived, she brought a burst of energy into my home that was both exhausting and exhilarating. Despite the joy she brought, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed at times. I was no longer as young as I used to be, and keeping up with a 3-year-old required a stamina I struggled to muster. The days were long, filled with activities to keep her entertained, from watching her favorite cartoons to drawing and playing in the garden. Ellie's presence was a stark reminder of the bustling life of a young family, a contrast to my usual quiet solitude. As much as I cherished these moments, I felt the strain. Tina seemed to regard my home as a convenient solution for childcare, without considering the physical toll or the disruption to my routine. Her casual approach left me feeling more like a service provider than a grandmother. As the weeks turned into months, the frequent visits began to wear on me. My health, though generally good, began to show signs of strain. There were days when I felt particularly tired or under the weather, yet Tina's expectations remained unchanged. "It's okay, you can rest, Ellie knows how to take care of herself a bit," she would say, brushing off my hints at needing a break. I often sat by the window, watching Ellie play in the yard, feeling a mix of gratitude and resentment. Gratitude for the laughter and life she brought into my home, and resentment towards the situation that placed her there so often without proper consideration for my well-being. As I watched Ellie drawing at the kitchen table, I realized just how much my life had shifted to accommodate this new role. The balance between being a supportive grandmother and maintaining my own health was delicate, and I was constantly adjusting to keep it from tipping too far in one direction. I wondered about the future, about how long this arrangement could last without a sincere conversation with Tina about boundaries and respect for my time and energy. In those quiet moments of reflection, I resolved to find a way to speak up, to ensure that my role in Ellie's life was sustainable and joyful, rather than a burden placed upon me without my consent. The thought of addressing the issue directly with Tina was daunting, but necessary. As I looked at Ellie, her innocence and dependence on the adults in her life clear, I knew I had to advocate not just for myself, but for the healthy relationship we all deserved. I found that I had run out. The realization that I was unprepared for my own illness added to my frustration. It seemed that in all the chaos of taking care of Ellie, I had neglected my own health needs. I decided to call my neighbor, who I knew kept a well-stocked first aid kit. "Hi, Marjorie, it's Hannah. I hate to bother you, but do you happen to have any fever reducers? I've come down with quite a fever and realized I'm out," I explained, feeling a bit embarrassed for not keeping my own supplies updated. "Oh, Hannah, of course. I'll bring some right over," Marjorie responded kindly, and within minutes she was at my door with medication and a soothing herbal tea. "You need to take care of yourself, Hannah. You can't pour from an empty cup," she chided gently as she handed me the medicine. Her words struck a chord with me. She was right. I had been so focused on making sure Ellie was cared for that I had completely ignored my own well-being. This situation with Tina had to change, not only for my health but for the balance in our relationship. As I sipped the warm tea, a plan began to form in my mind. I needed to set clear boundaries with Tina. It was essential for maintaining not only our relationship but also my health. I decided that once I recovered, I would invite Tina for a serious discussion. This time, I wouldn't let her brush it off. We needed a schedule that worked for both of us, one that respected my time and effort as much as it benefited her. The next morning, feeling slightly better thanks to the medicine and a good night's rest, I called Tina. "Tina, once I'm feeling completely back to normal, I think we need to have a chat about Ellie's visits. It's important we make a plan that respects both our schedules," I said firmly. Tina seemed taken aback by my directness. "Oh, of course, Hannah. We can do that," she replied, her voice lacking its usual hurried tone. "Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Let's aim to talk it over lunch next week? I'll send you a couple of dates and times," I suggested. "That sounds good, Hannah. I'll look forward to it," she agreed, and for the first time, I felt like we might be able to reach an understanding that considered both our needs. I hung up the phone, feeling more in control of the situation than I had in months. Establishing boundaries was not just about ensuring I wasn't taken advantage of, it was about fostering a healthy relationship with Tina and ensuring I could continue to enjoy my time with Ellie without resentment or exhaustion overshadowing the joy she brought into my life. As I waited for my full recovery, I felt a cautious optimism about the future, hopeful that a balance could be found that would work for everyone involved. I quickly switched my mobile phone to video call and showed him the little girl quietly sitting in my living room, clutching a stuffed animal. "But Raymond, she's right here," I said, my voice trembling slightly from the fever and the shock. Raymond, looking confused, turned his camera around to show Ellie playing in a park, her laughter mingling with other children's voices. "Mom, that's Ellie here with me. We're at the park." Who is with you?" My head spun not just from the fever, but also from the surreal nature of the conversation. The child in my living room looked up at me with innocent eyes, unaware of the confusion she was causing. "Then who is this child?" I murmured more to myself than to Raymond. Raymond's face showed concern. "Mom, stay right there. I'm coming over. Don't worry, we'll figure this out." The call ended, and I looked at the little girl, who seemed just as bewildered as I felt. My mind raced with possibilities, but none made any sense. The fever wasn't helping, making everything feel even more dreamlike and disconnected. I managed to settle the child on the sofa with some cartoons on the television, the same remedy Tina had carelessly prescribed. Though my body screamed for rest, I couldn't leave her unattended. I sat beside her, watching her watch the screen, her presence a mystery. An hour later, Raymond arrived, rushing through the door with a worried expression. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked first, checking my forehead for a fever, before turning his attention to the little girl. "Raymond, I don't understand what's happening," I admitted, feeling the edges of panic. He knelt down to talk to the girl. "Hi, what's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied shyly. Raymond and I exchanged a look of bewilderment. Neither of us knew any Lily. This child, so similar to Ellie, was an enigma. "I'll call Tina again," Raymond said, stepping aside to make the call while I stayed with Lily, trying to offer her some comfort with a gentle smile despite the chaos. After a brief, tense conversation, Raymond hung up and turned to me, his expression grave. "Mom, Tina thought she was dropping off Ellie. She didn't even check who it was when she left. She's coming back now." As we waited for Tina, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and concern. How could she have been so careless? And who was Lily? Why was she brought to my home? When Tina finally arrived, she was flustered and apologetic, rushing to explain. "I'm so sorry, Hannah. I mixed up the days with my friend's child. I was supposed to take Lily to her grandma today and Ellie to you tomorrow. It's all been a huge mix-up." The explanation was as outrageous as the situation. The stress of the day, the fever, and now this mix-up felt like too much to handle. But looking at Lily, now being scooped up by a mortified Tina, I felt a wave of sympathy for the little girl caught in the chaos. After they left, Raymond stayed with me, making sure I was okay and helping to calm the storm of emotions. "Mom, maybe we need to set some clearer boundaries with Tina," he suggested, his tone serious. I nodded, my head still throbbing. "Yes, we do. But right now, I think I just need to rest." Raymond agreed, promising to help sort things out once I was better. As he helped me to my room, I realized that today's ordeal might finally prompt the change we needed in our family dynamics. Elizabeth's parents were supposed to drop her off at her other grandmother's house, which coincidentally was not far from ours. Tina, juggling too many things, got the addresses mixed up and unknowingly left Elizabeth with me, thinking she was leaving Ellie. They were deeply apologetic about the confusion and feel terrible about the mix-up, Raymond added, trying to smooth over the awkwardness of the situation. "They're coming over later to pick up Elizabeth." I sighed in relief that the mystery was finally resolved, yet a part of me was still unsettled by how easily such a mistake could happen. "That explains a lot, but it's still such a strange mistake to make," I commented, my voice still showing traces of disbelief. Raymond nodded in agreement. "I know, Mom. I've talked to Tina about making sure this never happens again. We need clear communication, especially when it involves the kids. It's just too risky otherwise." The thought of what could have gone wrong if I hadn't been able to contact Raymond earlier sent a shiver down my spine. I looked over at the two children, who were now drawing together on the floor, completely oblivious to the stress they had inadvertently caused. They were happy in their own little world, and seeing them like that brought a smile to my face despite the day's chaos. Just to be clear, Raymond, from now on, we should have a double confirmation system before anyone drops off any child here, I stated firmly. Raymond agreed, nodding vigorously. Absolutely, Mom. I'll make sure of it. And I'll talk to Tina again about this. We can't have mix-ups like today. As the conversation wrapped up, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for Raymond's understanding and quick action. It reassured me that, despite the occasional lapse, our family could handle crises together. It also made me think about the importance of family support and communication, something I intended to discuss further with Tina and Raymond to strengthen our routines and prevent any future issues. For now, though, I was just thankful that everyone was safe and that the situation had been resolved. I resolved to use this incident as a stepping stone to better organize our family's logistics and to ensure such an error never recurred. Watching the children play, a sense of peace finally settled over me, the day's earlier tensions slowly fading away. Tina confused the children, but my husband could be involved in something like this. It's a lot to take in. Her voice was even, remarkably composed, but I could see a tremor in her hands as she finally reached for her coffee. Raymond continued, I'm sorry to drop this on you so suddenly, Rebecca. I wasn't sure how to bring it up, but with the children being mixed up like they were, I thought it might be related somehow. Rebecca nodded slowly, processing the information. I appreciate your honesty, Raymond. It's better to confront these things directly, even if they are painful. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, sitting there amidst the turmoil of revelations, yet maintaining her composure. It was clear she was grappling with the implications of what had been said, the potential upheaval in her personal life laid bare in an unexpected moment. Then she spoke again, let's sort out one thing at a time. First, about our children getting mixed up. It's a serious error, and I'm grateful nothing worse happened to Elizabeth or Ellie. I'll need to have a serious discussion with my husband about all of this. As for the affair, I need to understand more before I can fully respond. Raymond and I exchanged a glance, both relieved by her level-headed response, but also anxious about the deeper issues now hinted at. Of course, Rebecca, Raymond said. We're here to support you in any way we can. Rebecca smiled weakly. Thank you. It's been a trying day, but discovering this might just be a crucial step towards resolving deeper issues that have been simmering unnoticed. We all sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the day pressing down on us. It was clear that the repercussions of today's mix-up would ripple out, affecting more than just the immediate misunderstanding. Finally, Rebecca stood up. I should check on Elizabeth and then head home. There's a lot I need to think about and discuss at home. She paused, looking between Raymond and me. Thank you for your understanding and for taking care of Elizabeth today. Despite everything, it's comforting to know she was in safe hands. As she left, I felt a mix of emotions. There was relief that the immediate crisis was resolved, but the shadow of the unresolved issues between Rebecca and her husband, as well as between Raymond and Tina, lingered. I knew this was just the beginning of a longer journey towards understanding and potentially reconciling the complicated web of personal relationships that today had exposed. Once the door closed behind Rebecca, Raymond and I sat back down, both lost in our thoughts. What a day, he muttered. Yes, I replied, my mind already turning over the next steps we would need to take to ensure nothing like this ever happened again. What a day indeed. I had no idea things had reached such a critical point, Raymond continued, his voice filled with concern. Rebecca, if it's possible, I think it might be beneficial to address this issue directly today while everything is fresh, rather than letting it sit and possibly worsen. Rebecca paused, considering Raymond's suggestion. The idea seemed to take her by surprise, but as she mulled it over, a resolve seemed to form in her expression. You might be right, Raymond. It's been dragging on for too long, and I'm tired of the constant suspicion and the impact it's having on Elizabeth. I watched the exchange, feeling a mix of admiration and concern for Rebecca. Her situation was deeply complicated, and the day's events had added another layer of stress and decision-making that she had to navigate. "Okay," Rebecca finally said, setting her coffee cup down with a firmness that matched her decision. "Let's do it. I'll call my lawyer and see if we can arrange a meeting today. I want to resolve this as soon as possible." Raymond nodded in agreement. "And I'll be here to support you in any way I can," he offered. "If you need me to speak to Sean or help mediate the conversation, just let me know." Rebecca looked at Raymond, and I could see the gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Raymond. I really appreciate your help and your family's understanding through all of this." As Rebecca made the call to her lawyer, I reflected on the gravity of the situation. The day had started with a simple child mix-up and had spiraled into revelations of marital issues and potential legal battles. It was a reminder of how quickly circumstances could change and how deeply intertwined our lives could become with those around us. Once the call was finished, Rebecca turned back to us. "The meeting is set for later this afternoon. Sean will be there, and my lawyer will handle the negotiations. It's going to be a tough day, but I'm ready to move forward." As she spoke, I could see the determination in her stance, the readiness to end one chapter and begin another, despite the difficulties that might involve. It was a strength that I admired greatly, and I felt a profound respect for her ability to handle such challenging situations with such composure. "Thank you both for being here," she added, looking between Raymond and me. "Having your support makes all the difference." Raymond and I assured her once again of our support, whatever the outcome. As she left to prepare for the meeting, I felt a mix of emotions: sadness for the pain she was experiencing, relief that she was taking steps to resolve it, and hope that everything would work out for the best for her and Elizabeth. The rest of the day passed in a reflective silence for me, pondering the unexpected ways our lives unfold and the resilience of those facing personal trials. I hoped that Rebecca's courage and our support would help her navigate the challenges ahead. As Tina and Sean continued to argue, tossing accusations back and forth, the tension in the room thickened. Each tried to deflect responsibility, their voices rising in a cacophony of denials and half-truths. It was clear neither was willing to take full accountability for the deception and the confusion they had caused. Raymond sat silently, his expression one of deep hurt and betrayal. He occasionally glanced at me, seeking reassurance or perhaps solidarity in the face of this familial turmoil. My heart ached for him. This was a man grappling not just with his wife's deceit but also with the realization of being systematically misled and manipulated. "Enough!" Raymond finally shouted, slamming his hand on the table, causing everyone to startle and fall silent. His eyes were red, not just from anger but from the sheer weight of the emotional toll the evening had exacted. "This isn't just about who did what. It's about how you both, through your actions, have hurt everyone around you, including Ellie." Tina looked down, unable to meet Raymond's gaze, while Sean shifted uncomfortably, his earlier bravado fading under the glare of Raymond's justified indignation. I felt compelled to intervene, to bring some semblance of order and perhaps resolution to the chaos. "We're here to understand the truth and to decide how to move forward for the best interests of all involved, especially Ellie. This isn't just about assigning blame but ensuring that something like this never happens again." Rebecca, who had been silent for much of the conversation, now spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "Raymond, I think it's clear that there needs to be a serious reconsideration of the boundaries and expectations in your relationship. My lawyer can help guide you through the legal and practical aspects, if that's the route you choose to take." Raymond nodded, his demeanor sober. "Thank you, Rebecca. I think I might just take you up on that offer." The room quieted down as the reality of the situation settled on everyone's shoulders. Sean and Tina seemed to realize the gravity of their actions, their faces drawn and pale. "It's not just about me or us," Raymond continued, his voice steadier now. "It's about ensuring that our daughter grows up in a stable, honest environment. We need to think about what's best for Ellie." As discussions continued, plans were made for counseling and legal consultations. It was clear that the road ahead would be difficult and fraught with challenges, but there was also a sense of tentative hope. Maybe, just maybe, this painful evening could lead to a better, more honest future for everyone involved. As I watched the unfolding events, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of sadness and resolve. Sadness for the pain and disruption caused to a family I cared deeply about, and resolve to support them in whatever way I could as they navigated this complex and painful journey. It was safe. You were a diversion, nothing more. Sean's words cut through the room, cold and hard. Tina's face turned from confusion to anger, her earlier defiance crumbling as the reality of Sean's rejection hit her. Raymond, who had been quiet throughout this exchange, finally spoke, his voice low but carrying a weight that filled the room. Tina, this is not just about what you felt or didn't feel for me. It's about the lies, the deceit, and the impact on our daughter. You used our family as a cover for your affair. How could you justify that? Tina, now visibly shaken, struggled to formulate a response. Her previous bravado had evaporated, leaving her deflated and exposed. I thought I could manage both. I didn't think it would get out of hand like this. I'm sorry, Raymond, truly. Her apology, however, felt hollow after everything that had been revealed. The room fell silent once more, everyone processing the gravity of the situation. It was clear that the relationships in the room had been irreparably damaged, trust eroded beyond immediate repair. Rebecca, who had maintained her composure throughout the ordeal, finally stood up. This isn't just about apologies or mistakes anymore. It's about consequences and making choices that reflect our respect for ourselves and for each other. Sean, I can't just forgive and forget. There's too much at stake, too much broken. Turning to Raymond, she added, and Raymond, I think you need to consider what's best for your daughter moving forward. She needs a stable environment, free from the chaos that's been surrounding her. Raymond nodded, the weight of his decisions clear on his face. You're right, Rebecca. Ellie deserves better than this. I need to think about her future, not just my own feelings. As the discussion wound down, Tina and Sean left together, a cloud of uncertainty hanging over them. Raymond and I stayed behind, the silence a stark contrast to the earlier confrontations. I never imagined it would come to this, Raymond finally said, his voice tinged with sadness. I thought I was building a family, but it was all based on lies. I know, I replied, feeling his pain deeply. But now, you have a chance to rebuild, to make things right for Ellie. She's what matters most. Raymond looked at me, his eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and resolve. Yes, she is. And I'll do whatever it takes to ensure she grows up in a loving, honest home. The day had taken a toll on all of us, revealing truths that were painful yet necessary. As I left Raymond to his thoughts, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope amidst the wreckage. Perhaps, from the ruins of broken promises, a stronger, more genuine foundation could be built for the future. As I send Ellie off to school each morning, I find myself reflecting on the tumultuous events that reshaped our lives. Watching her skip down the driveway with a backpack almost as big as she is, I feel a profound sense of relief and gratitude. Ellie's laughter brings a lightness to the house that had been missing for a long time. The changes weren't easy for anyone, especially for Raymond, who had to navigate through a storm of emotional and legal challenges. But he handled everything with a dignity and resolve that made me prouder than ever. Despite the pain caused by Tina's actions and the upheaval that followed, he focused on what was most important, providing Ellie with a stable and loving home. After school, Ellie and I often spend our afternoons in the garden, planting flowers or tending to the vegetable patch. Her curiosity about everything, from the worms wriggling through the soil to the bees buzzing around the blossoms, is insatiable. These moments are precious, a far cry from the tense gatherings and harsh words that once filled our days. Inside the house, Raymond's support is palpable. He calls daily to check in on us, his voice always a comforting presence. In the evenings, when he returns home, the house comes alive with his stories from work and Ellie's tales from school. We share meals and discuss everything from school projects to new recipes we want to try. The community around us has been incredibly supportive as well. Neighbors who once whispered about the scandal now greet us warmly, often stopping by with baked goods or offers to help around the yard. It seems that they, too, have moved past the gossip, choosing instead to focus on the present and how they can support us. Raymond's personal life is gradually finding its rhythm again. He's begun to date, tentatively at first, but with more confidence as time goes on. Ellie sometimes asks about her mother, and Raymond handles those conversations with a gentle honesty that I admire. He ensures Ellie knows she is loved, not just by him but by a whole network of people who care deeply about her well-being. In this new chapter, I find myself less preoccupied with the what-ifs and regrets that once clouded my thoughts. The move to this house, the decision to stand by Raymond and Ellie, it all feels right. I no longer dwell on the past but look forward to the possibilities of each new day. As I watch Ellie grow, thriving in an environment filled with love and stability, I am reminded of the resilience of the human spirit, the ability to recover and flourish even after facing the darkest of times. And for Raymond, seeing him rebuild his life and find joy again is a source of endless comfort to me. This life, with its simple routines and deep bonds, is what I had always hoped for. It's a life built not on the shaky foundations of secrets and lies, but on the solid ground of love, trust, and forgiveness. For that, I am eternally